Sonoma Raceway, by far one of the most technical tracks you can find on the iRacing surface. This track has fast kinks, long sweeping bends, left-right flicks, slow sweeping turns, tight hairpins with hard braking zones, and all over some of the most pronounced elevation change you can find in North America's circuits. This track proves to be a significant challenge week in, week out, and today we're going to see what these 24 drivers will be able to make of it. Welcome to Friday Night Primetime on RaceSpotTV and to round 4 of the iRacing IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. I'm Nolan Rample with Stefan Schlackia beside me in the booth today, and Connery Maddock once again behind the cameras for today's race. Stefan, we come to round number 4 off of a thrilling round at Barcelona, just like the first 2 rounds at Lime Rock Park and Sebring. No doubt, we've seen that even the technical tracks can provide some exciting racing, and well, but if Barcelona is one of the most technical tracks in Europe, this is surely one of the most technical ones in North America. I think that means we're in for a show tonight.
Yeah, we're most definitely in for a show tonight. Not only a very technical track, but also a very blind track in the form of many crests that obscure your sight onto the apex. So very much, as we have said last week already, this is all going to be about our drivers, how they can face today's challenges and how well they can overcome while also battling for the win.
The track, located in California, is host to one of NASCAR's biggest events, and it was in fact also the season finale for the NTT IndyCar Series for several years as well, most notably from 2015 up until about 2018, 2019, if memory serves me right. So this track does have some pretty big name events, including its own, but I'm pretty sure the Pilot Challenge actually comes here in the real world as well. So these drivers, they're no doubt going to be quite fast. It's going to be fascinating to see what kind of a race we're going to have here today. We're going to take a look here at Dominic Brennan right now in that number 6 machine in this Porsche Cayman GT4 Club Sport. He's currently sitting 10th place on the boards with a 1:17.223. He's already completed both of his laps as well. He's just kind of running around there with a couple of extra practice laps. Never a bad idea. Right now, the top driver at the boards is Jackson Suzlin Harlow with a 1:15.919, the only driver so far to punch into the 1:15 range.
Yeah, and it is actually a little bit more interesting in terms of the TCRs here today while we see George Simmons on our screens right now, because obviously with the front wheel drive these guys will have to battle so hard with their Audi to stay in line with the racing course, with the racing line, over all these crests, over all these downhills, because obviously as soon as you go downhill there's a lot of tractions lost in these front-wheel drive cars.
Taking a ride on board here with George Simmons, currently sitting 2nd place in the TCR category. He's on his 2nd lap. He was less than half a hundredth of a second behind Pribin Wally right there in the top position. He's got a 1:18.768 to beat. So what can Simmons do? Cuts in for the cones, nearly clobbers the tire barriers, getting the maximum amount of track space you can possibly can. Cutting the curve just a little bit. It's so close to the barrier on the left side of the racetrack. Down across the line, will he be able to punch through to pole position here in the TCRs? He will not. A 1:18.905. Qualifying complete. Let's take a run down through your starting grid. It is Jackson Suzlin Harlow started on the pole, the only driver to punch into the 1:15s here at Sonoma Raceway. Tristan Iglesias is going to be in the 2nd position with Andre Carrera Martins in the 3rd position. Pascal Stix is in 4th with Max Kamara in the 5th position with Michael Janney rounding out the first 3 rows. Gillian Salomon is going to be in the 7th position, just a little ways behind them. 4,000ths of a second behind him is Joshua Hellrung. Ade Copa Lopez is going to be in 9th with Dominic Brennan rounding out the top 10. Christopher Pays is in 11th with Alessandro Barbagallo rounding out the 12-car GT4 field in this one. Continuing on down to the TCRs, Preben Wally is on the pole. George Simmons is sitting beside him on that front row. Damian Owen Harris is in 3rd. Marcel Tai is in 4th. Miguel Freitas is in 5th place. Fraser Smith in 6th. Miguel Garcia 7th. Baptiste Schneider in 8th. Juan Bustamante in the 9th position with Riley Downey in 10th. I believe that's Oystein Harfjord in the 11th position with Ishmael Habib Jimenez rounding out a 12-car TCR field. So just like the first 3 rounds, a very evenly split field getting set to rumble for today's 30 minutes of action.
Yeah, a little bit of a one-sided affair, by the way, in the GT4s here today. Every single, apart from one GT4 driver today, is driving the Porsche Cayman 718 Club Sport MR GT4 car. The only one not driving that Porsche is Adai Coba Lopez, who is actually sitting in the McLaren. So, if you're wanting or hoping for a non-Porsche win, he is your guy to focus in today.
Looks like it'll be a bit of a struggle, though, for that McLaren, as he is starting all the way back in the 9th position on the grid, a full second off of the pole sitter's time. So it's not going to be an easy challenge here for the low McLaren in the field. I think at most he'll be able to aim for a top 5, but you never know. That could be a pretty big ask as well. Taking a look at the temperatures on the track, 27 degrees on the air and 42 degrees Celsius on the track. So it is a hot surface today. Partly cloudy skies, about 51% humidity in the air. Winds blowing 20 kilometers an hour to the southwest. So it is a hot and very windy day out there today.
I mean, it is California, so I'm not very surprised about that track temperature. By the way, a short update also on Lopez on easy to spot car. It is that very bright green McLaren coming into you right now.
It's also the one that is only the GT4s that actually has their headlights on too, so that's another easy way to spot the McLaren as well. So about as visible as you could possibly get here in this one. Speaking of the weather, as somebody that lives on the west coast up in Canada, I can definitely say we got some pretty crazy weather out here. So this is about par for the course as to what you could expect around this time of year. Goodness gracious, I mean, the date in sim is April 10th. Just that past noon, so that does kind of show you that this is what it's actually like down there right now. It is hot and windy in California today, so we'll be here in the hands of Jackson Suslin Harlow, who will lead them off to the green flag. He's really holding the field back here, going about 20 miles an hour slower than the pace car is, but an interesting one here. So now all we have to do is wait for this to kick on off. Try to go a bit of 3 wide there. Look at that. As Harlow actually has to... Oh, he gets punted. So an incident already for the green flag, and that is going to send Harlow off of turn number 12, and the green flag drops were underway, but it got a bit messy there for the GT4s. They're being really held up. Third place did not want to hang around. That really splits the entire GT4 field up as they're already in the run-up to turn number 2. So a very clean start there for the GT4s, all things considered. Just about single file the entire way back. The TCRs, though, just now crossing the start-finish line. They're also single file for every position except between Bustamante and Baptiste Schneider.
Even those two guys have sorted out a much cleaner start for the TCRs. As soon as the green flag dropped, those guys hit the loud pedal and got away very nicely. Wally got to a very nice lead as well. It looked like over the start-finish line. So let's see how that's going to fare.
No problems yet for anybody on the grid. It has been a bit of a trend so far this season that we get these major lap 1 incidents. That has not been the case here today. The GT4 field is already pretty much split up halfway between 8A and 9 and turn 10. The real first battle going on here is for the second position. Tristan Iglesias trying to fend off Andrea Carrera-Martins, who makes a big send around the outside of turn 11, but unfortunately runs deep, so that allows the full send racing machine to cut back on the inside, and Iglesias holds the second position. You saw Pascal Sticks try to make a run at the third position. He was also not able, though, to close in the gap as he needed. So really, really clean start here in this one. Definitely what we want to see here in the top split of racing.
Yeah, but they have to be careful not to let Harlow run away too far from these guys, because he has showed great pace in qualifying already. And if they fight too much, most definitely Harlow has an easy getaway run from them, as well as Iglesias drops his tires a little bit there to the dirt on the outside.
The TCR field is still nice and close. They're all running single file. So it's a bit of an interesting run here for a lot of the positions here we got on the grid as we ride on board with Andrea Carrera-Martins. So far, everybody is running single file. Everybody's being nice and civilized about all these battles. Nobody's really kind of making any moves that they don't need to make, which again, very unlike the first few races that we've seen. A lot of these races so far, they've been really action-packed. The battle's on for the TCR race lead. George Simmons just trying to get the crossover on Previn Wally, and the 17 machine was not quite successful. But Simmons, he is looking feisty, trying to get his first win of the season in the TCR category.
Yeah, but they have to be careful not to let Harlow run away too far from these guys, because if they fight too much, most definitely Harlow has an easy getaway run from them, as well as Iglesias drops his tires a little bit there to the dirt on the outside.
The
Yeah, kind of weird that Simmons, such a household name in the TCR, haven't had that win yet this season, but most definitely one of his strongest appearances up to date. And he goes to the inside, but immediately dog slam.
Trying to get the crossover on the exit of turn number 11. Still not successful, but George Simmons, he is going to be fighting this one big time. I have no doubts that Simmons here could find himself in a very high position here for the end of this one. So the 17 car, the big question is going to be how will he be able to fend him off? It's the two hairpins that you have to keep in mind here. A lot of people are used to seeing the Grand Prix layout of this facility. Well, we're not using the Grand Prix layout. We're using not even the current NASCAR layout. We're using the old NASCAR layout, as a lot of people have probably noticed at this point in time. So what can George Simmons do here in the battle for the TCR race lead? He's got to find a way through here. He's still about a quarter of a second behind, just under 3/10. Loses out a little bit, though, as he ran a bit wider than he probably would have liked through the curbs.
Yeah, and one thing we haven't touched upon yet is that this venue here, Sonoma Raceway, might be one of the very few raceways where we actually will have natural occurring traffic for these guys in forms of lapping maneuvers, because at this point already it's about halfway the distance already on the track between the GT4 leaders and the TCR leaders.
This is one of those tracks where lap traffic can not just become up really quickly, but it can also become a significant problem for these guys as well. I mean, there really is no good place to get around lap traffic here. Everywhere you catch them, it is always going to be such a major inconvenience. And it just shows that getting around lap traffic and traffic management in general, that is definitely the key to winning the race here at Sonoma if you're here for the multi-class racing. I mean, goodness gracious, this has already been a thrilling race so far. Got it that the battle's starting to heat up here. P4 in the GT4s, so that's the fourth, second, third, and the second. They're all looking mighty close. Tristan Iglesias continuing to try to fend off Andrea Carrera-Martins. Pascal Sticks still waiting in the wings.
As we also have our first retiree of the day, Alessandro Barbagallo has stepped out of his car, as well as I have just received news.
Oh! Big send there from Pascal Sticks, tags the back end of Andrea Carrera-Martins. That unsettled the fourth car in a big way, allows Iglesias to get quite a jump on these guys. Pascal Sticks is able to kind of just barely close in behind, but he is not going to elect to go for the position. Probably a wise move. The bump and run is something really commonly seen in short track racing. It's not something you really see too often here in multi-class racing.
Yeah, but with a track length of only 3.2 kilometers, this could as very well be a short track.
It may as well be, with the nature that a lot of these corners are as well. This is one of the most tricky tracks when it comes to passing that you can possibly get. It's almost a premium when you're racing hard like this. You got to really force the gaps because there just aren't any good passing opportunities. There's not a really good amount of places here where you can really kind of get a suitable draft. You got to rely on getting a better line through the corners, and to keep a consistent line here is also such a big ask because you've got so many different types of corners. You've got so many different types of hills that you have to go over, crests to dive through. It's such a tricky and challenging track. One of the best places you can probably find when it comes to testing out a race car.
Yeah, in North America, most definitely. In the world, yeah, we still have Silverstone, which is a little bit better of testing up your cars, but combine Sonoma with Silverstone and you most definitely will have one of the best, if not the best, testing facilities that you could have. But obviously, that's only ever going to be a dream.
The battle for the DCR lead is still on. Cone's once again going and flying. The poor Marshall was constantly having to run out there and pick them all up again before the next cycle was on through. So far, the entire TCR field has been nice and close to each other. In fact, just kind of looking through here, the entire TCR field has been separated, well, by less than about 2 or 3 seconds throughout the entirety of the race so far. That just shows you just how little is separated these guys, because just the top 4 alone, less than a second apart.
Yeah, it's super tight all together. I mean, even Fraser Smith in 6th place is still very much part of this train. So there we have him on screen, Full Central Racing driver. number 16, and even the guy behind him, I can't see who that is. It's also his teammate there, the number 10, very much still part of this train. That's Michael Garcia, also UK iDriver there for you. So, like, this pretty much is still a good train halfway down the field in the TCRs.
The battle for second is continuing to pick on up. There might have been a little bit of contact between the number 4 and the 9 the last time by through turn number 11. So close to the back bumper of Tristan Iglesias. Andrea Carrera Martins is really fighting hard. He's going to run over the full Sim Racing portion in a little bit here. If he isn't too careful, Stiggs kind of backed off a little bit, trying to wait in the wings. Here's going to be a big send up the inside of one of the first of the Kings. Doesn't get it done. Can he get the running knees for the hairpin? Don't think he's going to be able to get there. He's going to try it. Slams into the back end. There's the bump and run that we were talking about. That puts Carrera Martins up into the second position. Tristan Iglesias, he is not happy.
I wonder if either of those has some damage now. We might see something now. They're on our screens. Oh, that's quite the bump there on the 9. Look at that, but it seems like both of them got away without damage to their cars. So lucky break for both of them.
A lucky break, but I tell you what, Tristan's feelings are definitely hurt from that one. He is not a happy camper. So if he manages to get back there into Carrera Martins, expect the fireworks to really fly, because I would not be surprised if we saw yet more contact between Iglesias and Martins in this battle for the second position. It is certainly far from over. We still have a long way to go left in this race. A solid 20 minutes and 50 seconds left on the clock. So that goes to show just how much time there is left. The TCR battle is still nice and hot as well. Simmons is still keeping nice and close to Wally's, making these looks every single corner. So these guys just don't know how to get away from each other. It's always the TCRs that are nice and close from flag to flag. And Stefan, this is kind of what I was talking about in the past couple of races, how the TCRs just race so well because they don't have the top speed, because they're not able to corner as fast. They're able to stay so close to each other. The fact that they're front-wheel drive as well, that is actually, it's almost a hindrance for them at this track, because with all of the crests they have to go over, for example, this one here, they're going to go over the hill right here, they lose so much front-end grip, and it means they have to lift off so much just to avoid not running into the grass.
Yeah, exactly. It is so much a play with the throttle here because of all the crests. You just can't be at full power for quite a lot of the accelerations, because they go over some sort of crest, like even here through this snake. The TCRs really struggle to keep their grip, to keep turning as much as they want. And then you also have this weird dip to the left and downhill as well through this right-hander to make things even more complicated. So even though this might look quite easy on paper, I can tell you it's actually really hard and really difficult to make these TCRs work as fast as these guys can. And look at that fiercely forward car in behind. And that was quite a descent on George Simmons.
Tell you what, that cone that was sitting in the middle of turn 11 there has the best view in the house of this battle as it crosses over the start-finish line. Emino and Harris got mighty close to the back of George Simmons as well. The two British drivers nearly wiped each other out. That would have been absolutely brilliant news there for Wally, the driver from Scandinavia. So this will be this battle is still yet to be decided. This is definitely going to be one of those fights that we're going to be developing right through to the checkered flag. The question is, when do the dive bombs start? Because realistically, that's the easiest way for these TCRs to pass each other, is by sending one up the inside. These cars, they can make contact. They're practically made for beating and banging when it comes to door-to-door racing with these cars. How long before we really see these drivers start to get aggressive as we ride up over the fifth-place driver, Miguel Freitas?
Yeah, I think we'll really have to wait quite a lot of time here to see that happening, especially with Freitas, who we're on board right now. He is very calm in the first 3/4 of the race, and that's then really where his normal time to shine is. He is really good at conserving his tires. If he has a very good setup under his hands, look at that, might be the scent here from Freitas as well, and not quite.
The Hoisenfeld machine of Marcel Ty decided to cut him off there a little bit at the apex of turn 11, so Freitas had to really back out of that one in the Simordo machine. Still running strong, though. This race has been very, very clean for the TCR field. I don't believe these guys have made a single piece of contact yet. Of course, there are firsts for everything in a series like this.
First, most definitely. Also to finish my point, George Simmons, his stat point is a little bit interesting. Obviously, he had that very bad Lime Rock Park race, but other than that, his races have been generally extremely good. And so the question is a little bit, obviously there's a championship on the hands as well. And George Simmons might have a very good shot at getting back the lead in that championship here today. So, I mean, George Simmons, he can be extremely aggressive when he sees the opening, but I also think that George will know that there's a better ways to fight this right now than to go for a very risky dive. And I think this might actually be his chance.
Oh, big block to the inside for Wally. Defends big time on the inside. Simmons sends one up in a turn 11. And George Simmons gets the pass done, chucks it up for the race lead. But Preben is not done yet. Damian Harris is still waiting in the wings here. That 17 car could fight back here, giving the number 3 car a big shove as well. Practically bump drafting him all the way down the front straightaway through turn 12, down through 1. And Damian Harris has to really check up there to avoid running him over. Now the question is, does George Simmons run away with it? He's already pulled a significant gap. Take a look at this pass once again. That saw a change for the lead in the TCR field.
Yeah, what a pass there from George Simmons. Perfectly set it up and made it work, made it happen through turn number 9. Just look at that.
There is the move from Simmons down to the inside. The 17 car, being nice and courteous, recognized that Simmons was going to get his nose in there regardless and decided to give him the room. So there it is. Definitely bump drafting him all the way down the straightaway. A miracle they didn't hook bumpers through turn 12. That's just incredible to see. I mean, it's not often you see TCRs bump drafting each other all the way down these straights. Again, anything can happen with these cars.
Yeah, so that means now also, by the way, George Simmons takes back the lead. He did qualify on pole, lost that lead right away in the first lap to Prem Wally. So good job on George Simmons to get that finally back. But also, you might have realized already in the GT4 field, which we have now once again joined here, the battle for 7th place between Halrank and Solomon. Jackson, Suslin, Hallow, 5.5 seconds already his lead back to Martins and Iglesias fighting over that 2nd place. So the Aussie / Kiwi most definitely doing a very great job in the number 1 car.
Yeah, Harlow has been having an absolutely phenomenal run so far today. He has been on point today, has nailed just about every apex perfectly, and that's what you want to do when you're up in the race lead. But I tell you what, this TCR battle is not going to go away anytime soon. And this is about to get to one of those situations here where we're not going to have time to talk about anything else but this battle here for the lead, because George Simmons is under some serious fire from the 17 machine just behind. The Audi RS3 LMS driven by Preben Wally is looking very hungry for the race lead. Almost made contact with Simmons through turn 10A last time by. Was able to keep it secure, but I don't know how long these guys are going to be able to keep this one clean.
The answer might be not long, the answer might also be very long. We still have quite the train going all the way back to pretty much Baptiste Schneider. So these guys holding on very tightly to the leader, and it might just be that because of all the slight defending the leader does lap after lap, this train stays together as well as it does.
4th and 3rd are still looking close. This is the overall battle for 4th and 3rd, that is. Pascal stinks right to the backside of Tristan Iglesias, and that would not be the first time that Iglesias has had somebody give him the bumper to get past. The first time was, of course, with Andre Carrera Martins, and Iglesias was none too pleased about that one. He's trying to now fend off Pascal Sticks, who at this point is closer to Iglesias than Iglesias is to Martins, just up the road. So this, at this point, is the biggest GT4 battle you got. A lot of the other drivers at this point are more just kind of running on their own in their own little groupings.
You know, it makes me a little bit wonder if Tristan Iglesias has used his tires up a little bit too much, trying to fight with Martins up ahead, because he's really fallen off the back of Martins, and this is maybe the time for Sticks to really try and move here, because otherwise he might really lose the back of Martins, and that could obviously severely hinder his chances at getting a top 2 finish.
So down through turn number 9, coming up here to turn number 10, which is a sharp right-hand kink right there. It's a bit sweet, but you have to hit the brakes a lot more than you think. It is so easy to underestimate that corner, go spearing off into the tire barriers with less than no runoff. Down for turn 11, Sticks runs a little bit wide. That gives Iglesias some breathing room in the run down to turn 12, down the front straightaway here. I think that was the mistake to help Iglesias secure the position for a while, as Sticks has now fallen back to half a second.
Yeah, it is a little bit interesting though, because Sticks' line has been similar to that pretty much all race long already, running a little bit wide past the first apex and really cutting back to get a very straight second apex. And I mean, it is a little bit of an interesting line, yes, but it also helps with the GT4 because of the very big wheel speed these cars can generate. So I can see why Pascal has chosen to go out and choose such a line, but most definitely it seems like right now that sweeper through that hairpin most definitely is the fast one, but maybe his one saves more tires, and that could benefit him obviously also down the long run.
We check back in with the battle for the TCR race lead. Remember, Wally is still doing good here in this battle for the second position, has still managed to maintain nice and close to George Simmons, has definitely not allowed Simmons to run away with this lead at all. So George Simmons at this point, he has got his work cut out for him. It is going to be extremely difficult for that 3 car to be able to break away. He's really got to make sure that he can keep that 17 car in check. These two are actually pulling a pretty small gap here. Oh my goodness, while we're at this section of the racetrack, you saw the dust fly back there from Miguel Freitas. That proves the point I was just about to make. That tire barrier and that wall, you are allowed to run out of that area on the racetrack as much as you want pretty much, but it is just so risky to run out there because you got to tuck it in so tight. It is a miracle that we have not seen anybody slam into those tires yet just from running a bit too wide through the corner, because if these guys, they're cutting the line so fine that if they are off by about another foot than they already are, they would be head on into those barriers.
Yeah, most definitely, and that would most definitely generate also some quite epic moves. As, oh, look at that, Freitas completely misses his line as well into the hairpin.
Tried to have an outside pass around Marcel Tai, who was defending the inside, but unfortunately just overdrove the corner here. So watch this here, off for turn 10, down for turn 11. There is Tai defending. Freitas tries to go around the outside, but goes too deep to be able to make anything of it. And that, in turn, unfortunately, it caused him to just sacrifice more ground than he probably would have if he had just stayed in line.
Yeah, probably Freitas just maybe also just a little bit. Oh, look at that, side by side.
Potential swap as Tristan Iglesias fended off against Pascal Sticks, excuse me. So Sticks is definitely not waiting around any longer. Sticks tried to make the run on him down through the turn number 11, the final hairpin on the racing circuit. Was not successful getting it done, though, as Iglesias did manage to get the run around the outside, coming on the front straightaway. So we ride on board with Sticks, stay nice and close through turn 4A. There's Iglesias running wide, nearly hits the tire barriers, has to cut back in, all in the middle of the track. Now here comes Sticks up the inside of turn 7A, officially not on the track. It's a bit strange the way turn numbers are done here at Sonoma, but Sticks still not successful in getting it done. Now the recently formed machine of Michael Jenny is looking for a spot behind.
And it seems like that Iglesias really starting to extremely struggle with his tires as we go back to the battle here between, that is Freitas. Did he overtake?
He did manage to make the pass on Marcel Tai. It was down into turn number 11 just one lap later after his failed attempt around the outside. This time an inside pass. Tai in the Hoinsingfeld machine did not go defensive, and that allowed Miguel Freitas to go up the inside and pick up the spot nicely on the number 8 Hoinsingfeld Audi RS3 LMS. So the battle for fourth has been settled. This has meant, though, that there is now a substantial gap between fourth place and the battle for the top 3, which is closer than ever just up the road. Damien Owen Harris runs a little bit wide through 7A. Prema Wally, though, and George Simmons, there is still almost nothing between them.
Yeah, like I said, we're pretty much 3/4 through the race, and it is time for Miguel. He has started his first move, and he is already closing in on his second move. That might be Damien Owen Harris, but Harris, we have seen him defend vigorously already in a couple of rounds, so that will be his hardest pass probably of this race. But look at how strong that car is in the background from Freitas, pretty much closing in 3 car lengths.
It is just absolutely unbelievable, the sight that we're seeing here in this one. And unfortunately, for the car that's closing in, Marcel Tai, he ran a bit too deep, just misjudged his braking points. We ended up losing those 3 car lengths again, but it does go to show just how much these guys can close on in. Here's the battle for third, once again in GT4s. Pascal Sticks try to have another pass here. Tristan Iglesias, who is still doing a fantastic job at holding this grouping off behind him. It's only a matter of time, though, at this point. Pascal Sticks is getting extremely aggressive here with under 10 minutes to go. What is he going to do about it? That's going to be the big ticket question here at this point. It's really anybody's guess as to what could happen here. Meanwhile, Wally's trying to have a go at the DCR race lead around the outside of 7A. Not successful. Simmons cuts him off, but that goes to show that it's all starting to kick on off here for the DCR battle for the lead as well. Wally's been pretty patient the last few laps, but look at how close he gets to the back end of that 3 car. There's almost nothing between them, but once again, it's all about to come to a head.
Yeah, and we might even see a special guest appearing. That would be Harlow, because he has started to make his way through the TCR field. Like I expected, there is, a bump.
The smallest of taps with the bumpers. George Simmons is able to hang on to it and maintain the race lead. That 17 car is getting a bit aggressive for his own good here, so now the question is going to be, can Simmons fend him off? George Simmons has been robbed of victories in about every race so far this season. He has got a race-winning car. He's just never been able to come into the circumstances that would allow him to take the win. He got the lead here early in this race. He's been trying to fend these guys off for the better part of the last 20 minutes. It is not easy to do what George Simmons has been doing, and we have to give huge props to that 3 car for being able to hang on to the lead as far as he has. Runs a little bit wider over the curves, I think, than Wally did, but Wally ends up losing the timeout anyway.
Look out, though, for that Red Hood in 4th place. He has caught the train, and he has also set his eye on Damien Owen Harris. So we might soon see a double tried pass going into the hairpin.
Damien Owen Harris ends up falling a little bit further back through turn 9 for 10. All drivers looking strong. Couple cars, different wheels into the dirt. No surprise there. Cones are once again sent flying as Simmons continues to maintain this race lead through turn 11. This has just been one of the best races we've seen so far for the DCR race lead. It has never broken away. This battle here for third is also looking strong here as Iglesias is still trying to fend off Pascal Sticks. Deep on the brakes for turn 11. Goodness gracious. These guys are starting to get caught up here by the leaders too here in just a couple moments. Harlow now has the tail end of the TCR field into the sights. I'm not sure if these guys are going to be able to catch up to our battle for the TCR race lead before the race is over, but lap traffic could very well still be a factor for at least the TCR back markers.
Yeah, I mean, it is still going to be traffic for our GT4 leaders. As we can see, Jackson Southland Harlow is most definitely catching now up to the midfield of the TCRs already. He has passed the back end of the TCRs, so it's only a matter of time until he reaches the top 10 drivers of the day's field.
Indeed. So there are still a couple battles that have yet to be decided. Going to take a look now up to the TCR race leaders. Still no change in the running order here for the top 4 so far in this race. Maybe, though, as Freitas tries to make the pass around the outside of Damien Harris. That outside line, though, has just not worked at all so far in this race. Nobody's been able to get it done. Now, here we go, though, the battle for third in the GT4s. Passing by the TCRs, this is a bad place to catch lap traffic. But like I said earlier, there is no good place to catch lap traffic here at Sonoma. But it looks like Iglesias is going to be able to make the most of lap traffic and actually pull a bigger gap. But what's he going to be able to do here for the first couple of corners as we look back up to this TCR battle for the race lead? This is going to be intense for these guys, because you got to remember, if the race leader passes these guys before the clock runs out, the race will end early for these drivers. If they can't stay ahead of the race leader before the checker flag, it'll be early by 1 lap. So we could be coming up here on the last couple of laps here for these drivers. There is about 2.5 minutes left on the clock. 1 minute 17 is what the Porsche leader is doing at the moment in the GT4. So we're looking at about 2 more laps here total for these drivers. It could potentially still be the only one if Harlow manages to catch up to the leader. So that is 1 lap shorter than the 2 remaining for the GT4 race lead. At the moment, it's still 3 laps. Look at Freitas up the inside for P number 3 in the TCRs. Damien Owen Harris trying to fight back. First battle side by side down the front straightaway that we've seen all day.
Yeah, but the drive is in favor of Damien Owen Harris, so he gets back that 3rd place. But it's just incredible how strong that 12 is down into the hairpin every single time. Closes up so much to the back end, or even to side by side with the target in his sight.
So Tristan Iglesias ended up losing now 2.5 seconds in the draft to Pascal Sticks, which unfortunately has also meant that Iglesias has lost out on the battle for 3rd. It was also what had to contribute to that as well is the fact that you can see that mirror hanging off the side of his car. He actually tagged the wall, and he is all over the track right now trying to get these guys sorted. I mean, this is one of those drivers that unfortunately his day has just not gone to plan. So a mirror hanging off of Iglesias' car is a bit, it shows how his day has gone so far. 1 minute left on the clock, coming to the white flag for the GT4 race leaders this time around. Still 2 to go for the TCR race leaders. Could very well be 1 to go here if Jackson, Suslin, and Harlow passes them up. So in the battle here for the TCR race lead, this could be their 2 to go signal, but it could easily become 1 to go if they get passed up by the GT4 race leaders.
Yeah, 2 trains have formed here in the top 5. As Owen Harris and Freitas continue to fight. They're starting to really drop off the top 2 now. So Wally and Simmons, it might be their fight just between those 2 for the win, because I don't really see Harris or Freitas close that gap in just those 2-ish laps remaining.
Jackson Suslin Harlow has taken the white flag, so we are on the last lap this time by. For the GT4 race leader, sorry, for the TCR race leaders, it is still 2 to go for them. You can see Harlow just behind these guys, and holy cow, the leader just got blocked by Marcel Tai and nearly got taken out entirely. So it seems that Marcel Tai really does not want the race leader to disrupt the flow of things. He knows that 1st place does not have anything to worry about. He wants to see this battle go out to the end. So Marcel Tai trying to play sort of the chaotic good here in this one, allow this battle to continue. So George Simmons versus Preben Wally, they will be able to make it to the white flag. They will get 1 more lap to settle this, and good thing too, because Wally just had a big mistake through turn number 10. So deep on the brakes, gives the bumper to George Simmons, trying to get the pass on the exit of 11, but not able to get the run that he needs. Meanwhile, for Jackson Suslin Harlow, he is going to come off of the final corner this time by turn 12. The number 1 car takes victory here at Sonoma Raceway. 1 more lap to go, though, for the TCR race leaders.
What is the 17 going to do? Will he have his dive into the hairpins? Will he even be strong enough out of turn 4A? We'll find out right now.
Down the hill once again for the top end of the racetrack. Preben Wally looking so close. He's only got a couple of more chances to get this done. He's got to make the absolute most out of every single corner here. 3 tenths separating them through turn 7A. Still no dice for Preben Wally. He has been trying to get the race lead back for so long. He's got so little time to get it done. About 1/3 of a lap remaining for the TCR race leaders, who have just a couple of more tenths of a kilometer to go. What can Wally do through turn 10 for the final time today? Can he get a better run than Simmons? It's about dead even, but Wally touches 2 wheels into the grass. Simmons goes defensive. Here goes Wally trying to fight the outside line for the final corner. This is the last chance. He's got to make it work, but it's going to be no dice with the 17 machine. Simmons is going to get him off the final corner, and George Simmons comes around to finally take victory in the TCR class. Well-deserved victory for that number 3 car. He totally deserves that one today. Good grief, though. What a race.
yeah, what a race it was. Sadly, a little bit of a shortcoming there in the battle for third place, with Damon Harris taking that one away without Freitag really having anything to say in that fight. But still, once again, quite the show from the TCRs.
Every driver has crossed the line, and with that, we're going to take a look on over at the official post-race results. Jackson Susan Harlow takes victory 4 seconds ahead of Andre Carrera Martins. Pascal Stix is going to round out the podium for the GT4 class with Tristan Iglesias in the 4th position. Max Kamara is going to be in 5th with Michael Janey in the 6th position. Dominic Brennan sits in 7th. Joshua Hellrung in 8th. Ade Cobo Lopez is in 9th with Christopher Pays rounding out the top 10. Fast lap was set by Jackson Susan Harris on lap number 4 of the race. Gillian Solomon and Alessandro Barbagallo are going to round out the field. The bottom 2 drivers not finishing the race, the only DNFs for the entire day. In the TCR field, it is going to be George Simmons to finally take victory, a very well-earned win for that number 3 car. Prem Wally is going to be in the 2nd position with David Owen Harris in 3rd. Miguel Freitas is in 4th with Marcel Tai in 5th. Fraser Smith 1 lap down in 6th with Baptiste Schneider in 7th. Mikel Garcia 8th. Juan Bustamante in 9th. Riley Downey rounding out the top 10, one of the only Canadian drivers we've been seeing all season long. In 11th place is going to be Ismael Habib Jimenez in 11th, with Oystein Herford rounding out the 12-car field from Scandinavia for the TCRs. My goodness. What a race. Just what a race. I mean, once again, the IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge delivers.
Yeah, and what a delivery this race was. Just incredible racing, not only in the TCRs but also in the GT4. Quite honestly, they had to fight a little bit less with their cars than I expected from them to have to, because of all the elevation change that Sonoma offers them. But kudos to these guys. They most definitely figured out the track, figured out the car with the track, and they did the best they could have brought. And it only makes you awe at what kind of ability these guys have.
The ability these drivers has been put on full display for us once again. I mean, week in, week out, these guys provide some of the most exciting racing you can possibly find on the iRacing service. This field is one of the most competitive you can find when it comes to GT4 and TCR racing, especially in the TCR class. I mean, I think this is the 4th straight week in a row where the TCR class leaders, the leaders have been less than half a second apart from the drop of the green flag right through to the checkered flag. That says all you need to know right there. The fact that these guys are able to, be so incredibly consistently competitive all the time. It's such a tight field. That's what I love about the series.
Yeah, it is most definitely one of the greatest series that we have in our lineup. They just provide all these shows week in, week out, and it just makes you want to have more than just this 30-minute race.
Well, we typically don't have, people come and give us interviews, but we do actually have one driver standing by us here for this one, and it's actually the 2nd place finisher into the TCR category, Prema Wally. Mr. Wally, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong throughout the entirety of the broadcast, but you bring it home in 2nd place here for the TCR category in that number 17 car. Overall, I think a very successful day for you.
I'm very, very happy. That was an amazing race. George was really quick, and I just couldn't get close enough to make a proper move on him without moving him, and I didn't want to do that. So, excellent race by George. I'm very happy to finish 2nd behind him.
Well, your battle was definitely one that we were kind of looking at throughout the majority of the race here. It was one of the most thrilling battles we were seeing in the entire race, and it shows just how competitive the TCR leaders can be when it comes to, close and hard racing, but also very clean and fair racing, as you were saying yourself. So why don't you kind of go a little bit more in depth with us? What do you think is it about these cars and this field that just allows you guys to make these thrilling races for us week in and week out?
First of all, I think the TCR is a car that is fairly easy to master, but it's extremely hard to drive as fast as the very fast guys do. But once you establish that lead pack, you can sit there in the draft for basically as long as you want. And on a track like Sonoma, where it's difficult to pass, that gives excellent racing. So I tell everyone that starts iRacing that the TCR is the car to get because the racing is so close. The participation is fairly good, and yeah, I really enjoy the car.
Looking forward in the schedule, we've got Phillip Island coming up next. That is a track that is more suited for the GT4s. It's got a lot of very long straights, but it's got some really hard braking zones as well that are perfectly suited for the TCRs. What are your thoughts coming into the next round here? Are we going to be able to see you in the next race? And if so, do you reckon you can put on another strong performance like you put on today?
I hope so. Phillip Island is usually a decent track for me. I did a league race there just 3 or 4 months back, and I did fairly well. So if I'm available, I'll definitely turn up next Friday.
Before we let you go here, Preben, anybody that you would like to shout out for us today?
Yeah, I have to start with my mentor, basically, Steen Ledger over at Full Send Racing. He gave me a chance when no one else did, and I'm eternally grateful to him for giving me that opportunity. And also my new teammates at the Luminous Racing. We're a good bunch, and we push each other to the next level. So I think we have something good going.
And thank you, Preben, for taking the time to pop on into the broadcast booth and join us here today. Best of luck next week. Congratulations on the second place finish in this one.
Thank you.
That was Preben Wally's second place driver in the TCR field for round number 4, the iRacing IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. I mean, goodness me, once again, these guys never failed to disappoint. And I think Preben put it very perfectly. Another reason why the racing is so great in the TCRs is just how much respect these guys have for each other. You heard him say he could not make the pass around George without making contact, and he did not want to make contact with George. That in and of itself tells me just how much respect these guys have for one another. It really is a family of guys that you got racing on the track there. That is what is so great about not just the field, but the series as a whole.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's not only in the TCRs that kind of respect, it's also in the GT4s that they have this massive respect for each other. And I mean, one of the true tests for the TCR is going to come up. It is going to be Phillip Island. It is going to be a very great combination of corners and straights. We have these extremely long straights leading from a very fast corner. So they are going to top out most definitely very early down the front straight. But also it is going to be a little bit of a killer for them because they have extremely long sweeping corners that these guys will have to manage not only their wheel spin but also their wheel angle so that they can take as much throttle through the turns to get as much speed onto the straights to really keep up with the fast guys. And I think that's really where we're going to see who is going to be our real top contender of the series versus the guys who will maybe struggle week in or week out.
I think the GT4s as well are a good class to watch out for coming into the next race as well. Like I said, the track is more suited for them, having the longer straightaways. I think we could see the GT4s being a lot more competitive. They weren't quite there today. They kind of split themselves up. The only real battle we had going on was for second, third, and fourth, but even that petered off in the final stages. So I think we'll be able to see the GT4s, be a lot more competitive when we come around to the next race at Phillip Island in Australia.
Yeah, exactly. Also because you don't have to manage your wheel spin as much because these GT4s obviously very tail happy on throttle situations out of slow corners. So with those slow corners pretty much eliminated except for Honda and MG, these guys will most definitely like much more the flow that Phillip Island has to offer for them because it also once again opens up quite some passing opportunities because also these guys in the GT4s can most definitely benefit from the draft they're going to get.
A lot of cars will be able to benefit from the draft there, and no doubt we are both very excited to see what the next race is going to hold for us. So I think that is about all the time we're going to have for one day. Can't thank you guys enough for sticking with us for yet another presentation here of Friday Night Primetime on RaceSpotTV here for the iRacing IMSA Michelin Pilot Challenge. I'm Enola Redpaul bringing you all the coverage from start to finish today with Stefan Schlackia beside me in the commentary box and Connor Maddox once again behind the cameras for today's race. So thank you so much for joining us once again. We will see you all on April 16th.